I feel like falling in love. I'm in the mood to fuck something up.
I got offered a job there.
Drink in my cup.
How'd you pick me out?
I'm in the mood to fuck something up.
Being different isn't always a bad thing.
I need a prescription. I wanna go higher.
You didn't think you'd see me again?
I wanna go where nobody's been.
And you are?
Olivia. Hope.
We gon' fuck up the night.
You want me? Earn me!
When we fuck up the night.
My characters became like this safe space for me to both hide behind, but also secretly reveal myself.
You see stars. That you elevate. That you meet God. I feel like falling in love.
Welcome to the Women's Army Corps.
We gon' fuck up the night.
Hi, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Vous parlez un peu français?
Un petit peu.
Un petit peu. Je vous ai entendu. Il y avait quelques petits mots en français qui sortaient dans les loges. Qu'est-ce que vous savez dire?
That's it. I've used up all my French.
J'ai entendu bonsoir, bonjour.
Bonsoir, bonjour, bisous, bisous,
Très bien.
d'accord.
Ça suffit. On est très heureux de vous avoir. Vous êtes notre cadeau de Noël. Vous êtes quelqu'un d'extrêmement important. Vous êtes une actrice sincère, engagée, passionnante. Votre parcours représente la définition du mot empowerment. Vous êtes connue dans le monde entier. La série Olivia Pope, évidemment. Enfin, le personnage dans Scandale. Vous avez tourné avec Spike Lee, Ryan Murphy, Quentin Tarantino. Vous avez joué avec Anthony Hopkins, Eddie Murphy, Reese Witherspoon, Angelina Jolie, Jamie Foxx, Chris Rock, Charlize Theron et Omar Sy.
Yes. I'm exhausted just listening to you.
C'est incroyable quand même. Et depuis la semaine dernière, vous avez votre étoile sur le Hollywood Walk of Fame à Los Angeles, comme Charles Aznavour.
So many of you are part of how I got here. My prayer today is that my starlight continue to connect me to the light that shines in each of you. You've made this moment possible. So many of you sitting here and those of you watching online, I'm grateful for the starlight in you that has allowed me to be here today. May you always know that this star, this Kerry Washington star, this is our star. It is your star as much as it is mine. So thank you for being on this cosmic journey with me. May we keep shining and lighting the way for each other and for the world. Thank you.
Il y a énormément d'émotions quand vous prenez la parole à ce moment-là, notamment quand vous pensez aux gens qui sont derrière leur écran. Et on a l'impression que vous parlez de vous, petite fille, qui était derrière son écran, à voir des stars aussi.
Yeah, that day was so humbling. It didn't feel real until they lifted up the cover and I saw my name in the stone, in the marble. I was so grateful to be with Tyler Perry and Shonda Rhimes, two people who have been like North Stars for me. And really having a star on the Walk of Fame is a dream of my dad's. It's something that he's wanted for a really long time. So to be able to be there with him and so he could see his name there, it just felt magical, like such a gift, such a blessing, my Christmas gift.
Vous faites partie des gens qui rendent ça possible pour ceux pour qui c'était impossible. Quand vous étiez plus jeune, qui vous a donné envie?
I had a lot of heroes growing up, women like Diane Carroll and Cicely Tyson, also Rita Moreno, who's from New York, from the Bronx, and Barbara Streisand. Like, these are women who I feel like Hollywood tried to marginalize them and said that they weren't traditionally beautiful or they weren't meant to be the lead characters in a story. And all of them took control of their careers. They produced and directed, and they worked on television and in film and in theater. They just made sure that they were continually reinventing themselves and creating opportunities for themselves. And I think it's women like that that made me feel like even if the traditional path forward didn't seem possible, I could maybe carve out a path that was right just for me.
Est-ce que vous vous souvenez de votre premier jour à Hollywood?
I don't know how I would define my first day in Hollywood because for a while, I would kind of go for a season to audition for different television shows. And so I would kind of come and go because I grew up in New York. That's where I was raised. So there wasn't like a first moment in Hollywood. But I remember making my first film, which was a tiny little independent film called Our Song. People say because it has a very cinema verite style that it feels almost like a little French film, an art film. And that movie was really the first time that the way I like to describe it is growing up in New York, we lived in the pathway of LaGuardia Airport. And so I would always see planes fly over our apartment, and I wanted to be on them. I just had this urge to want to get on a plane and have a more adventurous life. But when I was making Our Song, that was the first time we were filming. We were stealing shots on the subway in New York City near JFK Airport. And it was the first time that I saw planes fly over me in New York, and I didn't want to be on them because I was loving working in film, that I just wanted to be where I was, nowhere else.
Qui est-ce qui vous a appris à rêver grand?
I think my dad. I think I got really lucky with two extraordinary parents. My dad is a big dreamer. He's a storyteller. His language is the imagination and make-believe. My mom is more of a realist and a worker. She's more logistics and operational. So I think that combination was really helpful for me because I had big dreams. I had permission from my dad to have big dreams, but I had encouragement from my mom to have strong work ethic and have a plan.
Vous aviez un plan?
I did. I mean, first of all, I didn't think that I would really make it in this business because I don't know. I guess I had a dream, but maybe I didn't believe that my dream was possible for me. Like it lived in me, but I wasn't sure it was possible. So when I first started auditioning in New York, I gave myself 1 year to try to get a significant job, and if not, I was going to go back to graduate school or law school.
Et ça a marché?
It did. In that year, I got this film, Our Song, my first feature film, and while we were shooting Our Song, I auditioned for Save the Last Dance, and so that was my first big Hollywood film.
Et aujourd'hui, vous êtes à l'affiche de Messagère de guerre, c'est réalisé par Tyler Perry. Production mondiale, vous êtes productrice exécutive de ce film, ça c'est le 20 décembre. Vous racontez une histoire qui est longtemps restée dans l'ombre et vous vous servez de votre notoriété pour raconter ces histoires-là. On regarde.
Ladies, we have been ordered to provide hope. The soldiers have not heard from their loved ones, and their loved ones have not heard from them. When there is no mail, there is low morale. 688 Battalion! Forward march! They did not send us because they thought we could do it. We are here because they are sure we cannot. We are no strangers to making a shack a home. We are at war, and when you are at war, you make do. Unlike some other folks here, we have the most to prove. Now is where you show the proof. This is our mission. And we will not fail.
Vous incarnez le Major Charity Adams. Qui est cette femme et pourquoi c'était important de raconter son histoire?
So this film is about the only all-black, all-female battalion from the U.S. to go overseas in World War II. And their efforts really helped to win the war. She was their captain, she was their leader. She was only 26 years old, but she was in charge, in command of these 855 women from the United States who all came overseas, had never traveled overseas before. And she was a true hero for democracy. She helped to win this war that helped to protect democracy all over the globe.
Elle en est où pour vous aujourd'hui, la démocratie dans le monde?
I mean, it's a good question. It's a challenging time, but I think it's a time when all of us are realizing how important it is for us to come forward and take care of one another.
Vous avez rencontré Lena Deriakot King, c'est une des femmes de ce régiment. Elle est décédée en janvier à 100 ans et en 2019, elle racontait son histoire.
We worked 7 days a week, 3 shifts. Our motto was no male, low morale. That was our motto. And we felt that the one thing that service people want is to be able to connect with their families. And the families, of course, want to see how their loved ones are doing. So it was a very important mission for us to be able to have that connection.
Il a fallu attendre plus de 80 années avant que leur histoire soit racontée. C'est grâce à vous. Comment expliquer que ça a pris autant de temps et qu'il ait fallu qu'une génération comme la vôtre émerge pour la raconter?
Well, when they came back from the war, they were not treated well. Many of them were embarrassed and hid their stories of service because people couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that these women did this heroic thing. And so there were rumors that the regiment was sent overseas to be concubines for the black male soldiers. So many people didn't tell their children, they didn't tell their grandchildren that they were part of this extraordinary legacy. They were not celebrated, they were not treated like true heroes. Now that the film has come out, we're having people come forward to say, I just found out my grandmother was in the 688, or I just found out my great aunt was in the 688. So it's really special to be able to honor them now that we have the history, and it's almost making the film felt like an act of corrective storytelling to transform, to correct the mistakes of history, to have them be ignored and not uplifted.
Est-ce que c'est important de dire que dans les communautés de ceux qu'on appelle vulgairement les minorités, notre histoire est faite de héros et pas de victimes?
I think so. I think when you're part of a marginalized community, to be able to rise above that and surpass people's expectations does make you a hero, for sure. And I think the film, it is about this particular group of Black women in this particular time and place, but I'm finding that the film resonates with anybody who's ever felt underestimated or doubted or pushed to the side. Even people who just are struggling with self-doubt, because these women struggled with that too, like feeling as though, do I belong here? Do I have what it takes to meet this moment and meet this mission? So it's so inspiring to learn about what they walked through and what they were able to do despite everyone doubting them and judging them and thinking less of them. And I think that's so much of what the film is about. Like, how do we ignore the doubt, both internal and external, so that we can meet the mission of our own lives, whatever that looks like for us?
Utiliser la fiction pour corriger ce qui manque dans le livre d'histoire, c'est quelque chose de très important. Et c'est quelque chose que Omar Sy a fait avec un film incroyable qui s'appelle Tirailleurs. Ah, vous avez vu Tirailleurs?
I love that film. Yes, it's like the World War I version of this film. In some ways, I love that. And it's such an important film. Again, asking people to imagine that the unknown soldier is somebody other than who they assume him to be. It's beautiful. I think 6888 is more nonfiction. It's based, I mean, Tyler Perry likes to say it's 90% accurate. He takes some romantic license, but I think both films are beautiful examples of making sure that when we think about our history, we're thinking with an inclusive notion of who is French, who is American, who is part of our culture, our families, our systems.
Et j'aimerais qu'on écoute Omar en parler ici. Tirailleurs, pourquoi est-ce que ce film, il a quelque chose de spécial pour toi?
Le fait d'y arriver, déjà, c'est quelque part un objectif atteint, une réussite. Donc pour ça, c'est assez spécial. Après, il y a ce que ça touche. Ce que ça touche, c'est-à-dire ces hommes qui se sont battus pour la France et qui ont quelque part été un peu oubliés. Ce volet de l'histoire un petit peu caché, mis sous un drap, pas trop accessible.
Est-ce que tu penses qu'on va arriver à raconter des héros d'Afrique?
Bien sûr! C'est en projet. En tout cas, moi, j'ai envie de ça. Je pense que je ne suis pas le seul, mais on y arrive tout doucement. Il fallait les personnes pour porter ces projets-là et raconter ça. Et aujourd'hui, je pense, avec les gens de notre génération et la génération qui arrive, ils vont porter des projets comme ça. On aura les acteurs, les réalisateurs, les auteurs. Et c'est l'objectif, c'est de pouvoir raconter justement l'histoire avec une autre mémoire, avec un autre angle.
Quand vous racontez d'un côté Omar Sy ou de l'autre côté vous, ces histoires-là, des héros qu'on n'a pas connus dans les livres d'histoire, c'est pour les parents ou pour les enfants, avant tout?
I think it's both. I mean, Omar said it so beautifully. I love him. I think he's so extraordinary. We had the joy of making a film together called Shadow Force that will be out soon. But I think we make these stories to honor the legacy of these soldiers. I mean, he's right. These men were a part of this fight, and they need to be uplifted and honored. These women need to be celebrated. They deserve this legacy. But also, as we lift them up, we pay their stories forward, because my children should grow up in a world where they understand the importance of the history of the people that came before them, and where they feel like they belong in the long list of heroes. The people that look like them and who are from where they're from are part of the great story of making this world a better place.
Le monde dans lequel vivent vos enfants, vous le voyez comment? Comment ils vous le racontent?
I think the great thing about kids is that they're so hopeful. Their hearts are still open and they're curious. I think as we get older, sometimes we like to think we know exactly who people are and what they think, and we make assumptions more quickly because we've been kind of jaded by the world that we live in. But kids are still curious. And I think we need that kind of curiosity in the world, to not prejudge each other, but to keep an open heart and to be willing to ask questions and offer people grace to be who they are, not decide who they are.
Vous avez publié un livre dans lequel vous révélez plein de choses, notamment que vous avez appris à 43 ans que votre père n'était pas votre père biologique.
Yes, yes. It's really the story of my relationship with my parents and how learning that new information about my biology really unlocked new possibilities for how I relate to my parents and how they relate to me and how I relate to myself. It's very much the story of how truth has impacted my family.
Et aujourd'hui, votre père est une star sur les réseaux sociaux.
Yes.
On regarde.
Why is Santa afraid of getting stuck in the chimney?
Why?
Because he has claustrophobia. That's so silly. When is the element table reviewed?
When?
Periodically. What does the turkey say to the turkey hunter?
What?
Moo.
Quelle est la première blague qui vous a racontée, qui vous vient en tête?
Oh, my goodness. As a child, I mean, my dad was always joking, always, always. I remember just sitting at the dinner table and laughing all the time. And my mom is a retired professor. She's much more, like, elegant and demure. So she wasn't as... We would pull her into our laughter. But my dad has such a lens of joy that he sees the world through. And I'm really grateful because, again, his imagination really taught me to dream big, to think, to like walk through the world with joy in my heart.
On va voyager dans le temps. 1997, vous faisiez des vidéos éducatives, Standard Deviance, pour apprendre l'espagnol. C'est le Baboomba, le petit dossier du jour.
Queso is cheese. Cheese. Huevo means egg.
Oh, it's terrible. It's so terrible. You can tell I really needed the money. Yeah. So I don't have to eat crunchy cheese. What is that weird sound effect with the cheese? It's so strange.
C'est quoi le premier truc que vous avez fait quand vous avez eu de l'argent? La première dépense dont vous vous souvenez?
When I made Save the Last Dance, I got per diem in cash, and I used to hide it under my mattress. I never spent it on food. I would pack up extra food at catering on set so that I could have dinner that night. And I saved my cash, and at the end of that film, I bought my first laptop.
Dans la version de cette émission qui passe pour les abonnés de Canal+, vous êtes doublé par la voix qui vous double dans la série Scandale, dans lequel vous incarnez le rôle de Olivia Pope. Est-ce que vous vous êtes déjà entendu en français?
Non.
Eh ben, on écoute, regardez.
OK.
Olivia. Je ne suis pas un jouet que tu peux siffler quand tu ne sais plus quoi faire, que tu te sens seule ou que tu veux une fille dans ton lit. Je ne suis pas un personnage de cinéma, je ne suis pas un fantasme, je suis réelle. Et si vraiment tu me veux, tu dois me mériter.
She's good. She's so good.
C'est elle qui est en train de vous doubler maintenant. Ah, c'est une idée d'Agathe Blanchard.
She really had some heart. I could feel her fire.
C'était qui Olivia Pope, pour ceux qui n'ont pas vu la série Scandale?
So Olivia Pope was a political fixer. She was a crisis management consultant in Washington, D.C., and I was so lucky to play her for 7 seasons.
Si aujourd'hui, Olivia Pope devrait conseiller quelqu'un dans l'actualité qui aurait des petits problèmes, ça serait qui?
So many people.
À qui vous venez de penser? Vous avez pensé à quelqu'un?
I'm not going to say.
Il fait du rap?
Oh, that's one. There's so many.
Ouais.
There's so many. Yeah. But also, the character was inspired by a real woman named Judy Smith. And so she and I became very good friends. And I'm constantly referring her to people. People will actually call me in moments of crisis to try to get in touch with Judy Smith. So sometimes I feel like because of Scandal, I know way too much about what's going on in people's private lives.
Le succès de la série Scandale fonctionne aussi parce que c'est une série qui montre le dessous des cartes. On comprend que souvent, quand on voit une information, c'est de la communication. Est-ce que vous, ça vous a éduqué à l'information et comment est-ce que vous vous informez maintenant?
I think I am more media savvy than when I started Scandal, but I think the big thing that I learned from Scandal, which I was able to take into my life and is part of why I wrote Thicker Than Water, is this idea that we are as sick as our secrets and that secrets always come out and that the best way to deal with it is to be more direct and not be afraid of the truth because you can't run from it. So I think when my parents gave me this information and they said, but we can't tell anyone, all those years of playing Olivia Pope made me feel like, no, we have to deal with this head on. I don't want to be in hiding for the rest of my life pretending to be a family that we're not. Our family is beautiful and special, and nothing will ever change the fact that my dad is my dad. Just because he's not my biological father doesn't mean he's not my dad. And so I wanted to be willing to own that narrative, which feels like something Olivia Pope would very much say. Get ahead of it, own the narrative, tell the story your way, so that it's not something that breaks in a tabloid where somebody finds out that he's not your father and then they get to tell the story.
Vous êtes une comédienne qui brise les tabous. Vous êtes une star en étant l'anti-star. C'est-à-dire que vous n'hésitez pas à raconter, à mettre sur la table les choses les plus dures, même des abus que vous avez connus étant enfant. À quel moment on décide de prendre la parole dessus et quel retour on a des lecteurs et des lectrices?
The thing that surprised me the most when I wrote Thicker Than Water and was touring with it, we toured all over the United States and the UK, and the first thing that people would do is they wanted to tell me their family secret, because every family has them, different kinds of secrets, different kinds of abuse that we've survived. And so people felt compelled to share their stories with me, and I felt really honored to hold space for people's pain and their struggle and their secrets and their healing, really, because I think there's such healing when we can be in community and communication around the things that challenge us. So I'm really grateful that I somehow got the willingness and courage to share this story after deciding that I wasn't going to, then doing it, because I really do think none of us are alone, you know?
La France, en ce moment, est traversée par le procès où une actrice, Adèle Haenel, accuse un homme de l'avoir abusée et d'avoir utilisé son pouvoir de réalisateur pour avoir abusé d'elle jeune. Vous avez été une des pionnières du mouvement MeToo. Qu'est-ce que ça a changé des années après aux États-Unis?
I think there's just more awareness around what's appropriate and inappropriate. Like, we now have intimacy coordinators on set, which was not around when I was first coming up. And it's so helpful to have somebody who's professional, who's there to navigate what everybody's comfortable with. As an actor, I'm so grateful to be able to have just clarity, transparency, shared language going into a scene so that the limitations are clear, the comfort level is clear. Even as a producer, because for me, I think I'm more vulnerable as a producer on a project. If I'm doing a love scene, I don't ever want an actor that I'm working with to feel like he or she has to make a decision because I'm their boss that they're not comfortable with. So intimacy coordinators, I think, really protect everyone from having to feel or from feeling like they have to do things that they're not comfortable with.
Là, vous arrivez sur la plateforme Netflix. Le monde entier maintenant est abonné à des plateformes comme Netflix ou MyCanal, évidemment. Qu'est-ce que ça a changé dans l'industrie du cinéma et qu'est-ce que ça change pour vous et vos ambitions en tant que productrice?
I think it's really exciting, especially for a film like The 6888, because this is a film that resonates all over the world. Because World War II was a war that impacted so many of us, and because, again, people all over the world experience being marginalized, underestimated, pushed aside. So I love that Netflix really allows for projects to have a global audience where work can resonate and can impact people across borders, because humanity, emotion, love, the need to belong, the desire to win, those are human values, human emotions. They don't end at the border of one country or another. So I'm really grateful that Netflix is championing this film. Even just to be here in France speaking with you about it, that's because of the miracle of Netflix.
Et on est très content de vous avoir ici. C'est le miracle de Canal.
Oh, thank you.
Il y a plein de choses que vous avez surmontées dans la vie, vous avez dépassé vos peurs, vous avez fait preuve d'énormément de courage, mais il y a quelque chose qui vous fait toujours très, très, très peur. Il paraît que c'est ça.
Helene told you this. This is all Helene's fault. I know it. I know it. I know it. Omar Sy's wife, who I adore, she is, I mean, meeting her and becoming friends with her is like one of the greatest gifts of knowing him. She is like the cherry on the sundae. She's spectacular. And she knows I do not like cats. And so she sends me these awful cat videos and they freak me out. I'm just not a cat person. I'm a dog person. I think cats are evil. No offense. No offense. People like cats. I hope you love your cats. They're just not for me.
C'est quoi le pire truc qu'un chat vous ait fait?
My grandmother had a very mean cat named Ping. And she would attack. She was an attack cat, which was good. Growing up in the Bronx, she used to catch mice and things. But I'm just, I don't know. Also, I'm allergic to them. So it's hard for me to be around them. Maybe that's what it is. It's my own flaws. It's my own weakness. I shouldn't take it out on cats. Helene, I'm going to get you back.
Kerry, vous êtes la dernière invitée de la saison et c'est Noël. Est-ce que vous voudriez faire un cadeau de Noël aux gens qui regardent Click? Parce que je sais que
Do you have a suggestion?
J'ai une suggestion. Je sais que vous adorez chanter sur des chansons.
Oh God!
Et on a un truc pour vous. Vous avez juste à vous lever.
Okay.
Vous êtes prête?
Ouais.
Ok. Envoyez.
Ah! Where do I go?
Ici.
Don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. All I want for Christmas is you.
Bravo, joyeux Noël. Joyeux Noël, Kerry Washington.
Merci beaucoup.
Joyeux Noël. Vous pouvez dire joyeux Noël?
Joyeux Noël.
Joyeux Noël.
Joyeux Noël.
Et belle fête d'Indé sur Click. Merci beaucoup.